Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Ahern. I'm with AAC Voices. AAC Voices is a company that works with students who use augmentative and alternative communication. We offer assistive technology services, professional development services, one-to-one sessions with clients, and an online virtual school that has both a tuition program that includes phonics, math, and other classes throughout the day, and open enrollment, which allows you to sign up for one or more classes each day. We're a year-round school program, and we have a great community. And I've created an app specifically because I found something was missing and working with my students on synthetic phonics. And that was that all of the word work boards that I found were not accessible. They required dragging and dropping. They didn't have any ability to use alternative access. They didn't have any accommodations for vision or for attention. They definitely didn't allow switch scanning or eye gaze work. So I thought, I'll do something about it. So I'd like to share with you what I did. So I've created an app that I call the Accessible Letters Tool, or ALT. And it is specifically to be a word work board to be used with everybody. It's universally designed, but it is especially good at being used as a word work board or a letter tile board for students who have differing abilities or disabilities. So when it opens, depending on if this is the first time you've used it or if you've used it in the past, it will open to either this page or whatever page you last used, assuming you haven't cleared your cache on your computer. So you can see the main page here. We have the title bar. The first thing here on the title bar is what we call the coach cover. So this allows you to cover up the tiles and they can't be accessed at all when you've done this. This allows you to focus a child on the word bar here. So let's say you were doing some word building and you were having your students build the word pat. And then you wanted your student to find the letter to change to make the word into mat. Having all of these letters down here might be very overwhelming. So the learning coach or teacher or aide or parents or therapist can click the coach cover and focus the child on this and say, okay, what letter do we need to change to turn this word from pat into mat? And then they can click on the letter. And once it's clicked, you can uncover it and you can say, all right, what letter do we want to put instead of P? And they can enter a letter. So basically, it allows you to do word chains or word letters or word work, whatever you're calling that kind of task, where you change a word grapheme by grapheme, phoneme by phoneme, based on what you've already learned. You can see that we have a speak button.
Matt,
We have undo, where you can delete things one at a time. And we have clear. We have other options that have to be turned on. So we'll talk about them as we get to them. This display is by type, it's called. So it arranges the letters by type of letters. We have consonants, vowels, digraphs, R control vowels, vowel teams, diphthong, flossy rule, endings, mainly grammatical endings, and silent letters. And you can turn any of these on or off, and you can turn individual letters on and off. So if you just want to have, the first 6 letters in your curriculum, maybe it's SAT, PIN, then you could just have those showing. And then you can add more in. So you're really able to scaffold here. So the first way that letters arranged by type are displayed is in this horizontal way, going across, and you have to scroll. The next way you can choose for that, you can see I've gone into settings here. It's the gear up here. And we have many display options. The next way that you can choose is you can choose by type and then vertical. And then it's going to arrange tiles vertically. And this is the way you will often see tiles arranged in word work mats, is in this vertical fashion. So it will look similar to what other students are doing for word work mats. My personal favorite way to arrange the by type is fit all on screen. I'm a fan of, scroll up a little bit, but I'm a fan of being able to see everything all at once, especially for students who can't scroll because of their access method. So here you have all of your things. You can make a word. So you could make the word bed. And then of course you could undo, take things away, you can speak it, all of those options. The next set of choices that we have for how we arrange the tiles is we can choose, instead of by type, we can choose ABC order, and it just has the letters in alphabetical order. The wider your screen, the less horizontal rows there'll be. So if you're using an iPad, there might be 3 rows instead of 2, or that sort of thing. The next one after that is QWERTY. So this is great for students who typically are using a QWERTY keyboard. And then after that, we have vowel first. Vowel first is great for people who are scanning. So if they're scanning, I chose these 3, ABC order, QWERTY, and vowel first, because I see them in AAC devices. And I want what the students practice with to be what they ultimately end up using. So maybe the first 30 lessons, when you're still learning individual consonants and vowels, you might want it arranged in a different way, or to show only certain letters. But once you're at a point where they've got all of their letters and sounds, you may either want to use, a regular keyboard because that's what's on their talker, or you might want to have it look like everybody else's word work mat and have it by type. So some other options that we have are for visual needs. So if you're not using fit all on screen, you get more choices. So I'm just going to switch over to I guess QWERTY for now. So you can change the tile size. I'll show you small tile with small font and compact spacing. So that looks like this. And then you can go up to a medium tile size. You can go all the way up to an extra large tile size. And then because it's so large, you might want to also make the font much bigger. And then you can change the spacing so that the tiles are closer together or further apart, which might be good for kids who are accidentally clicking on the wrong tile. So it just gives a little wiggle room. The next options that we have are high contrast. High contrast isn't much of a change, it's very subtle, but it removes some of the gradient. It makes it much more visible. And then we have reduced visual load. So this is good for students who just get overwhelmed with all the colors and so much going on the screen, and really need it to be just the letters black on gray on white, very clear cut. Might be helpful for some students with autism or ADHD. And then we have, for cortical vision impairment, we have CVI options, which are clearly black with the neon. And let me show it to you with the type first. So if I go by type, get on screen, that's what it looks like. So much bigger, much more visible. Great for CVI, and frankly, I think pretty cool for everybody. Even without CVI, you can just do a dark mode if that's what you'd like. It's pretty bright too, might be good for CVI as well. You can also turn on rearrange tiles. So we're getting away from how it looks on the screen now into the tools that are on the screen. So rearrange tiles does this really great thing where, let's say you were making a word and you were making the word mat, and somehow you put in MTA. So if rearrange tiles was turned on, as you can see, it's turned on right there, then you can select a tile and it allows you to move it right or move it left. So we can move it to the right, and now we have the word correct. You can also move it back. That works fine. Or you can remove a letter from the middle of the word. And then if you needed to, you could add another letter and put it in the right place. Normally, programs like this are drag and drop. Drag and drop is really tough for a lot of kids with motor issues or attentional issues. You have to be focused on starting an action, carrying it through, and then finishing the action all with precision. And it can be really difficult. So moving to something that is just clicks can be much easier. So that is our rearrange tiles. Another option that you can choose is space hyphen. So this was requested by one of my students. So we were using this in class, and one of my students said, why can't I have a space or a hyphen for if I want to put in a phrase? So this is a kid who really loves cars. So he might have wanted to put in something like Ford Tucson. I don't even know if that's a kind of truck. Don't tell him I said that. But he might want to put that in and put the space between. Or let's say you have a name or a word that has a hyphen. So this just gives you that choice to use those. Another option in display that you can choose is letter case. So this, one of the parents told me about, is a very common complaint on other boards like this, that there's no shift. So you have some choices. You can leave it off. So it's just like every other board. You can make it all caps if that's easier for the learner visually to use all caps. Or you can choose to go with a shift button. So if you add the shift button, it adds it right up here at the top. The only place it adds it the top and somewhere else is if you are using Val First, because that is a lot of scanners use it. A lot of scanners use it. So we wanted it to be in the scan. It's still up here, but it's also here. So students can use a scan and not have to wait till it scans back to the top to press shift. Okay, we also have the option to show the word display or not show the word display. So what that means is if I put in a word like map, this is the word display. And it's nice if you are someone who needs to see it two ways, both separated and together, to really understand that those are the same thing. But you may want to turn it off if you really need everything to fit on one page. And even fitting on one page, this doesn't quite work with those size tiles. So I'm going to go down to a smaller tile here. And now it works. And as long as we don't have that letter, that word turned on, it all works on one screen. So if you have a student using a switch, they're fine without it shifting all over the place on them. Another option that you have here is phoneme boxes. Not a big fan of these. I don't know why I don't like them. I just don't. But it gives you some options. You can show kind of like Elkoning boxes. You can show 3 or 4, and you can have them numbered or not numbered. So this would give you these boxes. So when you enter letters, they go into the boxes. Or you cannot use them, or you can use up to 8 and not fill in all of them. So those are all the choices here under display. Another thing you have down here is set pin. So what set pin allows you to do is enter a 4-digit pin and then lock. And then as long as you haven't cleared your cache on your computer, that will stay set. And in order to change the settings, you'll need to enter the pin. There's also a way to override it by pressing escape and the gear at the same time. And then there is share settings. So share settings allows you to, copy and send this to somebody. When you figure out what the best settings for a student are, you can copy your settings and text it to someone, save it in a file, print it out, tape it to the side of the computer. The other thing it does, so you can copy and send it, but the other thing it does is it makes a link. So once you have a link, if you use this link to access next time, so if I opened a new window and I enter that link, it will ask me if I want to apply the shared settings. And then I get the same settings I've always had. Although I'm noticing that I might need to do a little fix because there shouldn't be that much space there. So I will have to check on that. I'll do that for everybody. All right, let's talk about some of the other things that are in this right now. We could always end up with more. Let's talk about our access methods. So the first option we have is hover highlight, and that just changes the appearance of the tile you're hovering over. It also works on these buttons at the top. And it looks different depending on what kind of display you have. So if you're using high contrast, it looks like that. If you're using reduce visual load, it looks like that. If you're using CDI contrast, it looks like that. If you're using dark mode, it looks like this. And if you are using, that's all of them. So that's how it looks on all of them, all the different choices for making it bigger for highlighting. You can also choose to make it bigger. And on this one, it gets larger. Now, because I also have highlight, it's getting bigger and highlighting it. I like both of them together. I usually leave those on. Another option that you have under access is hover speak. So what happens on this one
C B F K L
is
N
it says the letter when you're
N
over
D D A D.
What's nice about this is for students who have visual issues, they might use a process called auditory fishing. And auditory fishing is when
D C G
you move your mouse around the screen or your joystick or your eye gaze,
B
and
E
you can
J
hear, and then you select
P Q U
when you hear the one you want.
T.
So we have that
Undo.
ability to use that auditory fishing with the hover speak. Hover speak also works to create an auditory scan when you're using switch scanning, which is really nice that you can do that auditory scan. I'm going to turn it off right now, but it's there. Now, one of the things I'm most excited about is the dwell eye gaze option. I've been practicing it, using it with dwell, with head pointing, and I've had some of my students try it with eye gaze. This is one of those things I might need some feedback from people on, but let me show you how it's set up. So you have your dwell time. You can set it for whatever you usually use it on your device. You might need it a little bit longer than whatever you usually do. So if you're normally 7 or 8 or 900, you might need to go up a little just because you need to have time to think. With devices, kids usually really know their devices, so they don't have to take as much time for processing. But when you're spelling something, you might need more time. There's also a dwell grace period. So if this is turned on, it allows you to drift off of the tile for, up to half a second and still count as it being activated. So it's kind of reducing errors if you just kind of have wiggly eyes and you're using eye gaze, or you're using head tracking and you might, just wiggle on and off. So those are our dwell settings. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to clear. Let me switch to maybe another layout. Let's look at maybe let's do QWERTY. So how this would work is right now I'm not clicking at all. You'll have to take my word for it, but I'm not clicking my mouse. So I go over a letter and you can see that there is the border turned into a timer. Oops. And it works with these two. And it adds the letter. Now, if I had speak hover on, it would speak each one as I went over it. And then once I put in a word, I can hit
You.
speak and it will speak it for you. There's another option with that we'll get to in a minute. So I think this is really cool. I've spent a lot of time playing it with head tracking, and it really just works beautifully. I've had some eye gazers try it. I need a few more. So if you want to try it and give me some feedback, that would be great. All right, so let's turn off the dwell eye gaze and look at some switch scanning. So we have a choice of a single switch. You can choose from any of these, enter space or tab to be what you set your switch to. You can choose one by one, item by item scanning, or group item scanning. I'm going to choose group item. You can change your scan speed. You can have it automatically start if you turn it on here, but if you don't, you have to hit the switch to start the scan. You can have it scan over, speak, undo, and clear, which I'm going to want it to do. You can also turn on auto escape passes. So if you don't pick something in 2 or 3 or 4 times going through, it'll stop scanning. So let's give it a try with single. First I have to check and see. Enter. Okay, so I'm going to use my enter key as a switch. So here we go. You can see that it's going through each one. And it's doing the visual scan. Now let's say I needed an auditory scan. So we're going to go in and we're going to turn on
A
proper
through
speak.
L. Z through M. Space through Shift. Shift. Speak. Word tiles. Q. A. L.
Okay, and stop. I'm going to choose
Q
again.
U
Start
through
it.
P. A through L. Z through M. Space through Shift. Shift. Speak. Word tiles. Q U through P. Q U. W. E. R. T. Y. U. I. Q U through P. A through L. Z through M. Space through Shift. Shift. Speak. Word tiles. Q U through
So
P.
that's how that
A through
works.
L.
Let me go
Z through
ahead
M.
and
Speak. Space through
switch it
Shift.
to
Shift.
something else. So let's
Speak.
go
Word
to vowel
tiles.
first,
Speak.
which can be easier for
A
scanning.
through D. Space. E through H. Shift. I through N. O through T. O. P. Q U. R. S. T. O through T. U through U. V. W. X. Y. U through Z. Shift. Shift. Speak. Shift. Speak. Word tiles. A through D. Speak quality. E through
Found
H.
another bug.
Shift. I through N. O, T. I. U
Since this
through
is a
Y.
soft launch, I'm not
Undo.
too worried about finding
Word
all the bugs. I'll
tiles.
fix both of
Q
them
A L
right
I
away. So let's go
T
back
Y.
up to access. So that was our single switch scanning. We can also do two switch scanning. I'm not going to demo it because it's exactly the same. You're just choosing using one button or one switch to advance through the items or through the groups, and then another switch to enter. You can turn on or off that scan word area. So that is all of the switch options. Under speech, it will use just a voice from your computer. If you don't have any voices on your computer, it will tell you you don't. If you have auto speak turned on,
Speak.
then you can
T Y
go
J
ahead. This
T
won't work
S.
because it's wrong, but
Qualities.
so you saw that I
Hyphen.
entered the letter and it
Clear.
said the word without me hitting
N.
speak. So that can I also want to turn off the hover speak so we don't have to listen to it. You can also turn on audio feedback, which gives you a clicking sound every time you put in a letter.
G. GR. Gra. Gree. Great.
So that's how that works. You heard the clicking sound, and also because I had auto speak on, it said each word as we added to it until it was the whole word.
Great.
And let's go ahead and move on to tiles. So this is where I told you that you can show only some tiles. So let's say your students are not to digraphs or any of these other things yet. They just haven't learned them yet. You can shut them off. And then you just have consonants and vowels. But let's say that they've only learned A and I, which are the first two vowels in U fly, which is what my class uses, so I know it pretty well. And then maybe they would have M, N, P, S, T. So those would be the first, I don't know, like lesson 11 or so in U fly. So if I needed to with a student, I could do that. That's what it looks like vowel first. Not the best appearance in the world, but I can switch it over to by type and it will just show them in a row. And if I turn off fit on screen, which you don't really need, then it will look like this. You can also maybe try it with QWERTY. And then you can have students use just the letters they know. And for some students, that is really, really useful and exactly what you would do with letter magnets. So we found two bugs today during the little intro video. So I will get them fixed for everybody. One was the speak and the other, I'll have to go back and watch the video. I hope you all enjoy playing with it. It's free. I think it can work for most people. I think even people with various disabilities, it should be able to work for pretty much everybody, which really opens up literacy for all and the chance to use synthetic phonics programs with everybody. So enjoy, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.